standalone thoughts here. All right. So this week's is Parshat Ki Tisa. Very briefly, really, truly, because we do have to. So we have the golden calf. Now, to tie it, here's going to be the magic to what we were talking about before. What is the great problem? Say, okay, fine. So we're not acknowledging the miracles that are occurring, right? Whatever it is that we're talking about. I'm more of a what's called I'm a little bit more of a pessimist. I'm a little bit more of a, as we say, morashchora. Like I'll see the shadows. Every time there's light shining, there's still the shadows. In fact, the shadows deepen when you have a light shining. So I'm gonna be the person that focuses on the shadows. I'm gonna be concerned about our enemies and spend other people will acknowledge the light. I gotta still keep vigilant of the dark, etc., etc. What's the problem? What's the problem if I'm not willing to see the miracle? I'm still going to be, doing my thing and still identify as a Jew and all the kind of things, and that's actually why I'm concerned about everything that's going on. So what is the why? Why is the rabbi so insistent that I acknowledge this miracle? The answer is because that leads to a golden calf. Harsh words, but let me clarify. The Jewish people did not get up there and say, "Ah, phew, Moshe's gone. Now we can finally build ourselves the God we want." What led them to make a golden calf?
Doubt.
Doubt in what? They didn't believe God was there anymore?
Well, they didn't believe Moshe was coming back.
So so why did they make a new God? Why didn't they make a new Moshe? Did they not believe in God still? Of course they believed in God. But they believed that that God is too far beyond us, and unless we have a Moshe, we can't connect to him. Moshe ish. We don't know what happened to Moshe. Without Moshe, I don't have a relationship with God. Do you realize that most religions believe this? Most religions accept it as a given that us down here cannot have a relationship with God up there. And why do most religions believe it? Because intuitively, each one of us kind of feels this. This is one of the major efforts that Judaism demands that you do, that you make, the great leap of faith. It's not believing that there is a God, that there is a creator. Most people, most human beings, most scientists, deep down, if you really ask them, believe that there's something bigger. The question is, how much is that being and you engaged? How engaged are the two of you? So, and the problem is, a symptom of this issue is that when miracles are happening, you say, nah, God's, nah, there's got to be some just more natural reason why this happened. God's not that involved in my life. And the result of that is then when you put God on too high of a pedestal, ultimately you remove him out of the frame, right? If he was on this kind of pedestal here, he's still here on the screen, right? You put him on a pedestal up here, and all of a sudden he's out of your frame. We think we're doing God a favor. God is little old me, little old me. God involved in little old me, with little old me. So when Moshe's here and Moshe's there in front of me and he's tangible and I know he has a relationship with me, he's talking to me. And I know Moshe has a relationship with God because he's Moshe. So then I have a relationship with God because I have a relationship with Moshe. Moshe has a relationship with God. Good, done. But I remove Moshe from the equation. Me, relationship with God, things are happening and God's doing it for me or for my brothers and sisters in Israel, for like us. Like these things are happening and it's God's hand in it. As we've been praying for, God's actually answering my prayer. The problem is when you don't truly believe that the connection between you and God is that real, that tangible, that much in real time, then you start to have to feel that you need to create substitutes. The God of gold, a God that you can touch, a God that you can feel. You throw in with this force or with that force. Not because you stopped believing in God, but you never really truly believed that you and God were intertwined. The need to replace or to substitute another God in the place of Moshe is not because we ever thought Moshe was God, because we still believe God is God. But I don't believe I have a connection without Moshe. So if I don't have a Moshe, I then need to create a lower God, a God that I can reach, a God that I can attain, a God in my world. And by God, we mean a lowercase g, not an uppercase G. We mean, what does the Hebrew word Elohim really mean? It doesn't mean God, it means force. It means power. Michamocha be'elim Hashem. Because if I can't get to the source of all things, I need to have something that I can engage with, that I can then use and utilize towards getting what I need. So if I don't have God, then I have gold. And too oftentimes we say, sure, philosophically, theologically, I believe in God. Practically, I believe in gold. Because ultimately, I got to pay the bills. So God says, don't cheat on your taxes. But my bills and my thing, I've got to cheat on the taxes a little bit. Because God, you're all the way up there. And the tax man is all the way down here. And so I need gold to contend with this world. God, yes, I believe in you theoretically. Don't open the store on Shabbat. Yeah, that's God up there. But the God down here says I need to have a store open on Shabbat. Because I don't believe in God. Because I don't believe that God really is that close to me, that if I don't work on Shabbat, he's actually going to take care of me. That's not emunah, that's bitachon. And that's the same thing the Israeli army has to make a decision on a daily basis. Do we throw in whatever it is and spend all our efforts trying to make sure that we're on good terms with Qatar, or we're on good terms with God? This ultimately is the thing. If you can say a moment, take a moment and say, I see God in this. I see God. This is God. This is God. Most people will say they can't see God not because they don't say, oh, the factors here are not indicating of God. No, the overall premise that God is somehow engaged in geopolitics and in military movements, that's the biggest issue. Because they can't see God here. That's the golden calf syndrome. So the message in everything that's occurring, whatever it is what we all need to be working on is seeing God in our frame of reference. I have a direct relationship with God. Moshe Rabbeinu is not the one who's connected to God and I'm connected to him. I'm connected to God. Moshe helps me, guides me, coaches me, speaks on my behalf sometimes when I'm clumsy in my words, in my relationship to God. But Moshe does not make my connection to God. I don't need Moshe to have a connection to God. So even if Moshe was gone, the solution is still not the golden calf. Even if Moshe was in fact never coming back down, the solution is still God. Figure it out. Because God's here. Moshe was up on the mountain, but God wasn't. Moshe was lost on the top of the mountain. Guess who wasn't? Guess who informed Moshe? Well, Moshe was like, I'm not down there. I don't know what they're doing down there, right? I hear noises. I don't know what's going on. Who tells him? Who tells him what's going on? God. Because guess where God was while Moshe was on top of the mountain? Down
Aren't you
here in the world with us. So ultimately, in other words, God was more here and involved than Moshe was.
At that time.
Always. Always. And that's the point. Always. So, yes, Moshe helps us see it, but Moshe doesn't make it. Moshe helps us cultivate the relationship with God. Moshe doesn't make the relationship with God. Moshe doesn't bring God down. God's already down. And that's the mistake that they made. And that leads to a golden calf. Because if ultimately God's not here and the guy who helped make the relationship is gone, then we need to create substitutes. No, you don't. No, you didn't. No substitutes necessary. Your relationship is directly with God. Sure, Moshe is a very important and necessary factor in terms of cultivating the fullest potential of this relationship. But it doesn't mean that Moshe is the one who has the relationship and you don't. You have the relationship. Moshe is helping you cultivate your relationship. And so importantly, yes, and then I must go because I'm like
okay,
at this
I'm
point.
not going to say anything then.
No, go ahead, Paula, and maybe
Where was God on October 7th?
The same place he was during the Holocaust, the same place he was for the 210 years that the Jewish people were in Egypt, and still, yet, when Moshe comes, it says Lech tech acharai b'midbar, the same place he was after the destruction of the first temple and the second temple. There's never been a period where there wasn't the ability to question God, where are you in this moment? That we don't. Again, the only period of peace and prosperity in the Holy Land was in the days of Shlomo HaMelech. There was never a better or worse time to be a Jew. It's always been rough sledding. It's always been hard, and there's always the excuse to not see the hand of God, or God's presence. And yet, we're expected to anyway. We're expected to anyway.
That I agree with.
The Jewish people came out of Egypt, and even though they saw him open miracles immediately, then had to contend with an ocean, and then they had a miracle, but then they immediately had to contend with no food, and then they had another open miracle where manna came from heaven, but then immediately had to contend with Amalek, and then had to go for 40 years in the desert, and then had to go fight seven nations. It's never been easy to be a Jew. That's not the promise. And it's not like Jewish blood will not be spilled. Jewish blood has been spilled, will be spilled. That's not the defining fact of whether God's here with us or not. It never was. It never was. It was never easy to be a Jew. Never. The golden era of the Jewish people lasted a couple decades in the days of Shlomo HaMelech. Before then it was strife. After then it was strife. And it's strife. That's not what it means. God says to Moshe, when Moshe says, when the Jewish people ask me your name, where have you been? He's going to say, I've always been here. That's not how you define whether I'm here or not. Whether life is easy. Life is not easy for the Jewish people. So we have to change the calculus of what plus what equals God. And it's not life becomes easy and all my prayers are answered. It's a different calculus. But ultimately, it's something that God expects of us, which is why the golden calf is a relevant story to read again and again and again, because the factors leading up to it were things that probably all of us, how could they stand at the foot of Mount Sinai 40 days later and make a golden calf? Yeah, how could we be experiencing open miracles right now and most people will not even acknowledge it? It's all the Yetzer Hara is alive and well, always will exist, and always give you reasons to not see what anybody in hindsight can say. How did you miss that? How do you miss it? Go live into that time and then see how he can miss it. Because the Yetzer Hara will have all the right words to obfuscate. But that doesn't give us the excuse to fall for his machinations. All right, everybody?
Rabbi,
Shabbat shalom.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a great Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos.